Hello students, today we have to study the full wave bridge rectifier. What is the job of a full wave bridge rectifier? It rectifies both the halves of the AC input supply. As we saw in the half wave diode rectifier, that did the rectification of only the positive half of the AC supply. But the bridge rectifier will process both the halves of AC input supply. That is, the rectification will be done for positive half of the supply as well as for the negative half of the supply. As you can see on your screen, you have the circuit of a full wave bridge rectifier circuit. So we have the input AC supply, and then we have used a transformer. The transformer is in the ratio of 1:1. So what does we mean by 1:1 ratio? We mean whatever are the turns on the primary side, same number of turns will be on the secondary side, and this gives us the same voltage on the secondary. So whatever voltage will be on the primary side, same voltage will appear on the secondary side. Neither the voltage will be stepped up nor the voltage will be stepped down. So this is what a 1:1 transformer looks. Same numbers of sides on the primary side and same number of turns, same number of turns on the primary side and same number of turns on the secondary side. After that, we have used four diodes, D1, D2, D3 and D4, and then there is a load, resistive load RL, across which we have to take the output. So when the positive half of the AC wave comes, so this is the AC wave. So when the positive half of the wave comes, the polarities will be like this, plus and minus. And the diodes, which will be, so polarity here, it will also be plus and it will be minus. Now we can decide which diode will be forward biased and which diode will be reverse biased. To do that, we'll first write down the ends of a diode. So this one will be plus end, this one will be minus end, plus end and minus end, plus end and minus end, plus end and minus end. So this is how your diode polarity goes like. So if you can see, for the diode D1, plus is connected to the plus, and for the diode D4, minus is connected to the plus. For the diode D2, plus is connected to the minus of the supply, and for diode D3, plus is connected to plus and minus is connected to the minus. So we conclude, for the positive half of the supply, diode D1 and D3 will be forward biased. And how we see that? By just seeing the polarities of the supply voltage and the diode ends. Which diode end is connected to the supply? If plus, that means the anode of the diode is connected to the plus of the supply, it will be forward biased. And if anode of the diode is connected to the minus, it will be reverse bias. So for the positive half of the supply, diode D1 and D3 will be forward biased. And then we will see it for the negative half of the supply. So now comes the negative half of the cycle. This is the negative half. And now the upper end will be negative and the lower end will be positive, like this. And we will again, so this here it will be negative, it will be positive. Again we will see which of the diodes will be forward biased and which of the diodes will be reverse biased. For that, we will again write the anode and cathode ends of the diode. So for diode D4, it will be like this. For diode D2, it will be like this and this. So if you see, for diode D1, plus is now connected to the minus of the supply. For diode D4, minus is connected to the minus. For diode D2, plus is connected with the plus, and for diode D3 minus is connected with the plus. So what happens here, for the negative half of the supply, D4 and D2 will be forward biased and D1 and D3 will be reverse biased. So what we conclude in terms of the forward and reverse bias, for positive half of the AC supply, D1 and D3 diode will work. For negative half of the AC supply, D4 and D2 diode will work. Now let's start for the positive half of the supply. So when positive half of the supply comes, the end A becomes positive and the end B becomes negative. And as we saw, diode D1 and D3 will conduct and diode D2 and D4 will behave as an open circuit. Why open circuit? Because diode D2 and D4 are reverse biased, and in reverse bias diode behaves as an open circuit. So for positive half of the supply, D1 and D3 will work, and the direction of the current will start flowing from positive half of the supply, will go through diode D1, then will go through load, then diode D3 and back to the supply. So this is what will be the path of the current, and you just mark here the current through the load goes in this direction. This is important here. You have to remember the direction of current through the load and the polarities. So current goes through the RL in this direction. So this is how the circuit behaves for positive half of the supply. Now there will be, so this was the circuit for positive half of the supply. Now there is negative half of the supply. When negative half of the supply comes, the point A will be minus and the point B will be plus. And as we saw, diode D2 and D4 will be forward biased and diode D1 and D3 will be reverse biased and will act as an open switch. So they will not conduct and we don't consider them in the circuit. Now the current always starts from the higher potential and goes to the lower potential. So current will start from point B, go through diode D2, then through RL, then D4 and back to A. Now you see the direction of current and the polarities, it is same as we saw in the previous slide. So the direction of current through the load always remains the same, whether the positive half comes or the negative half comes. This is how we get the unidirectional current, or you can say DC current, or you can say direct current. So this is how the current flows only in one direction through the load. We were having AC as alternating. You see, you are getting positive cycle and then you are getting the negative cycle, but through load, that is through RL, current always flows in the one direction and the polarity remains as plus and minus, same. So this is how you get the DC. In DC the polarities don't change. So this was the full wave bridge rectifier. Now we have to do the analysis for the full wave bridge rectifier. So we have the waveform, we have the input wave, that is alternating current, which is the supply voltage, and then we have the load current, that is current flowing through the load RL, and then we have the voltage. So you can see on your screen the output current or output voltage are all on the in the same direction. There are no negative cycles, since we saw the current through the load always follows one direction. For the positive half cycle, that is for the positive half cycle, diode D1 and D3 conducts. For the negative half of the cycle, diode D2 and D4 conducts. That means from 0 to pi, diode D1 and D3 conducts. From pi to 2 pi, diode D2 and D4 conducts. Then again comes the positive cycle, and for positive cycle again the process will repeat. D1 and D3 will conduct, and for negative cycle D2 and D4 will conduct. Same will be the case for the voltage. So voltage and current will have the same waveform because the load is resistive. In resistive load, whatever are the changes in the voltage, same change is reflected in the current, as the resistive load follows the Ohm's law, wherein current is directly proportional to the voltage. So the wave shapes of voltage and current will be same. Now we have to do the calculations for the average load voltage, average load current, RMS voltage, RMS load current, and other performance parameters. So you can see on your screen we have the output load voltage as 0 to pi, and it goes on as the cycle repeats. So we will do the integration. We have to calculate the area under the graph, and that will be done by doing the integration. We'll do it for full cycle, that is 1 by 2 pi, and it repeats. If you can see from 0 to pi on pi to 2 pi for full cycle, we have the same shape twice. So we can do it for 1/2. So that's why we have written it 2, because it is same. It's repeating 0 to pi. It is same as pi to 2 pi. That is why we say it is 2 times. In from 0 to 2 pi, that is 1 by 2 pi, the shape 0 to pi repeats 2 times. That is why we have written it 2 times. So we'll integrate it from 0 to pi, Vs omega t d omega t, where Vs is the supply voltage. So we know that supply voltage, that is an AC voltage, and can be written by Vm sine omega t. So Vm, that is the maximum value, and maximum is always a constant that will be taken out of the integration. And after that we are left with sine omega t. And if you integrate sine omega t, you will get minus cos omega t. So we will take minus again out, and we will substitute it with the limits. Cos pi upper limit minus cos 0. So cos pi is having a value of -1 and cos 0 is having a value of 1. And when we substitute the things, we get average value as twice Vm by pi. So this is the average value, or you can say DC value of the output waveform. Now if you have to calculate the IDC, what is current equal to? Voltage by resistance. So we will substitute the value of VDC, that is given by twice Vm by pi into R. As we know, Vm by R, that is voltage by resistance, is current. So we can replace it by Im. So the value of IDC is given by twice Im by pi. This way we calculate the VDC and IDC. Next, we have to calculate the VRMS voltage. We will proceed in the same way. We'll take root, mean and square. So we have a supply voltage here, Vs square. In terms of supply voltage, we'll replace it by Vm sine omega t. So Vm square will take out of the integration, being constant. Sine square omega t will be replaced by 1 minus cos twice omega t by 2. The 2 will again take out of the integration, and we will separate 1 and cos omega 2 and do their integration separately. So for 1 we have integration as omega t, and for cos twice omega t we have integration as sine twice omega t by 2 with limits 0 to pi. And then when we substitute it, what we get? And this value sine twice omega t minus sine 0, this is equal to 0. So in the end we get the Vrms equal to Vm by root 2. That is, RMS value will be equal to maximum value divided by root 2. Maximum value Vm. Vm is the maximum value of the input sine wave, or you can say supply voltage. Then we have to calculate the IRMS. Since we know current is equal to voltage by resistance, so we will substitute Vrms by R. As we calculated Vrms, that is given by Vm by root 2 into R. So Vm by R can be replaced by Im. So the RMS value of the current will be given by Im by root 2. Now next we have to find the form factor. As we already saw in half wave rectifier, it gives you the information about the shape of the wave. So the form factor is given by Vrms divided by V average. We know the RMS value, Vrms, we know the V average value, that is DC value. So we will substitute in the equation both the values and we'll get the value as 1.11. So this is the value of a form factor. Next we have to find the efficiency. Efficiency, what does efficiency mean? How efficiently your full wave rectifier will convert the input AC voltage into the DC voltage. If it is a good rectifier, there will be lesser losses. What does lesser loss means? Most of the power is converted into the DC power. Yani most of the AC voltage is converted into the DC voltage. 100% efficiency means all of the input voltage, all of the AC voltage is converted into the DC voltage, or all of the AC power is converted into the DC power. So what we supply to a full wave rectifier is an AC power, that is PAC, and what we get at the output, PDC. So the efficiency will be given by PDC by PAC. Now we know PDC can be written as I square DC into RL, and PAC can be written as I square RMS into RL. RL is our load. So we know the value of IDC, we know the value of IRMS. We calculated it. We can substitute it here to find the efficiency of a full wave bridge rectifier. So after substituting, what we get, you substitute both the values and the efficiency is 81.2%. As we saw for a half wave rectifier, the efficiency was 41%. So we can say the efficiency has been doubled. As it is clear, because in half wave rectifier there was no usage of negative half of the AC wave, or you can say input supply, but here we have used the negative half of the supply as well. So that power will also appear at the output. That is why the efficiency has been increased, since we make use of the both the halves of the input cycle, positive half as well as negative half. So we can say the full wave rectifiers have better efficiency compared to the half wave rectifier. Now next we have to find the ripple factor. So what is a ripple factor? We discussed it earlier. The presence of an AC component in the output DC. Since the wave we got, again I can say we got this type of wave, which is a unidirectional, better than half wave rectifier, but again it is having a some kind of AC shape in it, so it will be having an AC component in it. So we have to calculate the ripple factor for the full wave rectifier, and that is given by root of Vrms divided by Vdc square minus 1. So for Vrms you will substitute the value we calculated here, and for Vdc substitute the value, and after substituting we get the value 0.482. If you compare to the half wave rectifier, the value is lesser, which means full wave rectifier is having lesser ripple factor. That means lesser AC component is present in the full wave rectifier. Next we have to find the PIV, peak inverse voltage. So what does PIV means? PIV means maximum reverse bias voltage that can be applied across the diode before entering to the Zener or breakdown region. So it means when your full wave rectifier starts working, two diodes are forward bias, two diodes are reverse bias, which means to the two forward biased diodes you apply positive voltage, but the two diodes that are reverse biased, to them negative voltage is applied, and the negative voltage has some peak. As we see, your supply voltage is having a peak value, it reaches some peak value, so a peak value is applied to the reverse biased diodes. What is the value of that peak inverse voltage? We have to find that. We can calculate it like this. As you see on your screen, we have taken the peak value, that is Vm. We are taking only the peak value of the supply. That means if this is the positive half of the cycle, you are taking the peak value, only peak, Vm. So at the input we have Vm, and the diodes, uh, the two diodes are forward biased, this diode and this diode, but the two remaining diodes are reverse biased. You have to calculate the voltage across these two reverse biased. So if input is peak voltage, that is Vm, we will apply a KVL. So we will go like this, minus to plus, rise in voltage, that will give you Vm, and then we will go to this point, plus minus, that is fall in voltage, that means minus VPIV. Then we will go to resistor, resistor is minus to plus Vm, because whatever is voltage at the input, that will appear at the load. After that we will go to this point, VPIV, plus to minus, so it will be minus. So after you calculate, it will be twice Vm, that is equal to twice VPIV. So VPIV is equal to Vm max. So peak inverse voltage of a diode is maximum voltage, maximum value of the supply voltage. So when the two diodes are forward biased, the other two are reverse biased, and they will be subjected to some peak inverse voltage, and that value is given by Vm, that is the maximum value. Now to prevent the diode from damage, PIV should be greater than V maximum value. What does that mean? It means if your PIV is less than V maximum value, your diode will get damaged. That means if the supply voltage comes, whenever the PIV max is reached, the diode will get damaged if PIV is less than V max. So for the diode, to prevent the damage of the diode, peak inverse voltage should always be greater than V max. So even if V max comes, it reaches its, even if the supply voltage reaches its maximum value, it should not affect the diode. If it is less than PIV, if it is greater than PIV, your diode will get damaged whenever the supply voltage will reach its maximum value. So to prevent that, PIV of the diode should be greater than V maximum, that is maximum value of the supply voltage. Thank you.